Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum student. I welcome you all to the course of Business Communication, code 8410. I, Sayyida Atiya Rahat, will be taking on this course with you in this semester. So, first of all, before starting our formal lecture, we will be seeing the course outline. We will go through the course outline so that you may have a good idea that what is business communication, what are we going to study in this very specific uh, subject. So here we will see about the course outline. This is the course outline of effect of business communication. This outline consists of total 9 units. Unit number 1 is about effective communications in business. In this we will study about importance and benefits of effective communication, ancient heritage for communication principles. I will just zoom it in so that you can see it clear. Ancient heritage of communication principles. Communication is the lifeblood of every organization. Benefits of effective communication in your career. Challenge of communication in global market. Components of communication. Then communication model, which include context, sender, which is encoder, message, medium through which the message is delivered, receiver, which is who is decoder, who decodes the message which was coded by sender, then gives the feedback which is from recipient to the sender. Concepts and problems of communication. Conventions of meaning, perceptions of reality, values, attitudes and opinions. Then non-verbal communication will also be included in this unit. Then unit 2, effective business. Then unit 2 is business communication in the global context and ethics, which includes the subtopics which are background to intercultural communication, a concept of culture, and intercultural communication model, national cultural variables, education, law and regulations, economics, politics, religion, social norms, language. These are all external environment which influence which have effect on communication. So we will be studying about these. Then individual cultural variables, then few non-verbal factors which affect communication, which are non-verbal communication, like these are non-verbal elements of communication, like time, which is also called chromatics, space called proxemics, then good acceptable dress, manners, decision making, verbal and non-verbal communication. How time can be a communicator, how space can be a communicator. We will discuss these all in detail in this specific chapter. Then business communication and the ethical context. In this subtopic we will study that during business communication, like business communication is different from the personal communication. We will discuss in detail in the definition of communication. So in doing any communication done by business should be following the ethical codes, will be following the ethics and manners of communication. So we will discuss the background to ethical context, we will discuss the ethical situations, then ethics as a communication issue. So in this way, for business communication we should be very much careful about the ethics of communication. Then unit 3 is technology in business communication, effective business messages. So here we will discuss business communication and the technology, how technology affects the business communication, and how business the technology that effect of technology can be in both ways. It can like impedes the communication, it can increase the communication, but technology has increased the pace of communication very fast. Like in earlier, when there were no internet and all, and if before internet there was no phone, no mobile phone, and before that no, like we had landline phones, and before landline phones we had fax and telegrams and all, and before that we had only pigeons, through which messages were sent from one place to another, and before that we had messengers, people who used to take a letter from any king and any person, and used to deliver that message in over years, over months. So one person on horse is going from one country to another, so that was very long, communication pace was very slow, due to technology. Communication pace has increased. Like if you send a message from here, and it within seconds it gets into the over the seas to Atlantic Ocean to America. So here, then we will discuss managing information within organizations, history of technological developments, challenges to organization made by new technologies, email, understanding the internet, establishing security, other communication technologies, managing information outside organization, and managing crisis communication. Then unit 4. Unit 4 is about effective business messages. That how should the effective business messages should be written. So here this is a process in which includes the planning. So first of all, the process of preparing effective business communication, we read about this, we study about this. Then there are 5 planning steps for making effective business messages. Then there are we will discuss about approaches of writing effective business messages, which is indirect approach or inductive approach. And then we will discuss about the beginnings and endings of business message, that how we should start our business message and how we should close our business message, how the opening paragraphs should be written, how the closing paragraphs should be written, how we should compose the body of the business message, then how we should draft, what should be the non-verbal factors that needed to be considered while writing a message. And you will be pondering what could be the non-verbal factors while writing a letter in. So non-verbal could be color of paper, size of paper, font, your formatting. These all are non-verbal factors of your business message. Then must revise your message, that there could be any type of errors, grammatical errors, typing errors, that should be removed. They give a very bad impact to the or very bad impact to the receiver, to the reader, as well as they can hinder the meaning of the message you intended to deliver as a sender. So there should be a very compulsory step of revising in drafting of your business messages. Then editing and proofreading your message. Then in revising, you also consider that if whether there any point is left, or an important point, whether you left an important point that should be entered in while revising your business message. And unit 5 is about the appearance and design of business messages, business letters, stationery and envelopes, standard parts of letter. What are the standard parts? Like they must be included in any letter, like salutation, subject, your enclosures. These things they should be present in every letter. There are standard parts of the letter, it should not be missed out in any case. Then there are optional parts of the letter, like we will discuss these in detail, but here, like personal statement, few people give a personal statement at the end of letter. They are optional parts of letter. Then letter layout, memorandums are the what are memorandums, how they are written, And what are memorandums? Basically they are internal communication, like the letters and communication written within the organization from department to department and from one office to another is called memorandum. So envelopes and electronic mail, special time saving media, message media, electronic mail, faxes, telegrams, mailgrams, taxes and teleconferences. So these are all appearances of messages. They can be delivered in any of these forms. Then unit 6 we will be discussing about good news messages, good news and neutral messages. What are good news messages, how they should be written, how they should be drafted, how they should be, what should be the opening paragraphs of good news message, what should be the closing paragraphs of good news message, so that sender and receiver get the exact idea, so that the receiver or reader gets the exact idea what the sender wanted to say. So organizational plan, favorable replies, answering how to answer queries, granting requests for adjustment, approving credit, acknowledging orders, granting favors and other requests, job acceptance letter, goodwill messages. So the technique of writing good news messages is different from the technique of writing bad news messages. Unit 7 is about bad news message, and it is very technical to write a bad news message, because you cannot give bad news directly to some person, and you should first say some buffering or some neutralizing or neutral opening paragraphs to to convey a bad news. But it is technical in another way, that your opening paragraphs and your starting paragraph should not be that much positive or that much be like neutral, that much be like the reader takes an idea, or the receiver accepts or expects or hope some good news from your letter. So there should be very much neutral, but not like hard, and like not delivering any bad news in the initial paragraphs. Then in the mid you write the bad exact idea, the bad news you tell, and then again you buffer with certain certain words to give a hope for the next attempt on anything else. So we will discuss these in detail. The right attitude, plans for bad news messages, indirect plan or direct plan. Direct, both can be used for bad news messages. Negative replies to request, answering non-sales related inquiries when information is undesirable. In these all circumstances we use bad news messages. Refusing credit, these are all will be designed or drafted in a way, in a technique we will discuss in the bad news messages. Acknowledging orders you cannot fill now or at all. Declining invitations or requests for favors. Unfavorable unsolicited messages. Annoying bad news about prices or services. Penalizing for non-conformity to rules or procedures. Convey other bad news. So then unit 8 is about neutral and persuasive messages. Neutral messages, announcement transmitters, persuasive messages. Then unit 9 is very important. It is about 7 C's of communication: grammar and effective listening. Here we will discuss minding your grammar, like we will discuss the few basics of grammar that should be considered while writing or drafting your communication. Then 7 C's of effective communication. 7 C's are basically the 7 characteristics of communication that should be dealt with, that should be considered in every communication, whether it is written communication or oral communication, whatever type of communication it is, whether it is internal communication, external communication, and internal communication, horizontal, downward, upward, lateral, any communication, there should be considering all the C's of communication. That is, 7 C's are 7 characteristics, as I told earlier, which are completeness, conciseness, consideration, concreteness, clarity, courtesy, and correctness. These are the 7 C's of effective communication. Then effective listening is also part of effective communication. If we don't and we will be discussing in this the what are the ways to improve improve listening, and we will also discuss that what are the types of listening and how uh, the effective listening can increase effective communication. Because if you don't listen effectively, so you will not get the exact idea that is in the mind of the sender, that is in the mind of the communicator, speaker, or writer. So to get the exact idea what the sender intended to give us, we should be having effective listening. So this was all about the outline of our course, which we will be taking along in the whole semester of business communication. This was all about outline, and now I will tell you about what is the recommended textbook for this specific course. So this is the recommended textbook. This is very good book, which name is Effective Business Communication, whose main author is Hata A. Murphy. The other authors are Herbert W. Hildebrand and Jane P. Thomas. So this is very good book, and when you will receive, and you might have received this book, you will go through this book, you will find it very interesting and very much useful, not only for this course but also in your life, to get the idea of and to make effective communication. So this was all about the introduction of our course, and give you a like bird's eye view of the whatsoever is included in course. So after that, we are now going to start our formal lecture with chapter 1. And I wish you best of luck to you all for this very specific course of business communication, and thank you for listening me here. Now we are moving forward to chapter 1 of effective business communication.